All right, it is Tuesday, December 17th. Just leaving CrossFit. Today is not an office day. It's apparently very loud beeping sound day. Let me back out of this spot. It's probably going to sound like my cold is getting worse, but I actually think what's happening is like my body's finally getting stuff out. Sorry, that sounds disgusting, but like I'm coughing more aggressively, but it's actually like feeling good to be able to cough. But the side effect is my voice is getting pretty mangled. So just gotta watch for that. But I could finally sleep again last night, which is so nice. I slept totally fine and then woke up and my body was like, now it's time to cough because you didn't do it all night. So yeah, anyway, I feel like it's progressing, but I know while recording this, I'm probably going to cough pretty hard at some point and you're going to be like, whoa man, sounds like it's getting worse. And I hear you, but I feel like I just finished CrossFit and I had the whole week off from the gym last week. So I'm legitimately feeling better, but so here I'm gonna cough. It's like I also think that my body's getting tired from coughing. It's taken a lot to do it, but anyway, enough of that. I had a topic that was submitted. I really like this question. This came in from someone commenting, and they were asking about a role switch, which I have seen be very successful. And the question is along the lines of they have a team, so they're a junior engineer, software engineer, right? And they have a team that is kind of looking to bring on a product owner. And they use the word, the phrase product owner, which is kind of interesting because, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of product roles, with the name, right? Or you'll see project manager, product manager, in this case, product owner. And I feel like these things can mean, the same phrases and words can mean completely different things to different people. So I want to make sure that when we're talking about this, we're just being transparent about that. So, first of all, I think that based on what this person was briefly saying in the comment, it sounds like it might be of interest to them. Oh man, don't do a U-turn right here. This is not the spot. Very bad spot. On the other side of a hill, and there was cars coming the other way too. Someone was, they joined my dev leader live stream last night and they said it was really funny that they like when I'm yelling at traffic and stuff. So I hope you enjoy that. It sucks because you can't see it. I wish that when people were doing stupid stuff when I was driving, I could I don't know, have a mode where you could see exactly what I'm seeing. Maybe in the future, if this channel does really well, I'll have more cameras and stuff, and I'll actually have a vlog editor. And then when people are doing stupid stuff, we can just turn the camera around and you can say, yep, Nick's not wrong. That person is being a big dummy. But back to this question. So I do think that there's a really interesting opportunity here because I think some people get into a technology field, being a software developer, and it's kind of interesting that when they're in the industry, and it doesn't have to take long, right? But they start to realize some of these other things that are going on in software teams are actually stuff that they gravitate towards more. So, and I talk about this kind of thing from a different angle where I'll say, hey, by the way, your soft skills are important, stuff outside of just coding is important. But that's because you're interfacing with other developers and you're interfacing with these other roles. And some people might find that not only do their, I don't know, personality traits, interests, skill sets kind of align with that, naturally, but they're also more interested in those types of responsibilities. So with a product owner, and this might change too, maybe in this person's situation, I don't know, maybe because it's a small company or a small team or something, maybe they're like, hey, look, we know you're a software developer, you want the product owner role, we still need you to code, right? Like, don't pretend like you can't, we've seen you do it, and we need the help, so like, you gotta still do it. That might happen for this person, right? I don't know. But the idea is, regardless of whether or not that's happening, they would be moving away from having their hands in code. Okay, so that's not, like, for some people, I think the scary part is, like, some people go, well, is that like a death sentence for my career? Like, you know, I've been training for software development. You know, am I throwing everything out the window? It seems kind of scary to take to do a change like that. And I can understand that. I wanted to share, like, as part of talking through this, I wanted to share a story about one of my best friends. He's from the company that I used to work at. And, you know, he's the kind of person, like, we'll be lifelong friends. He actually is the person that hired me there. He was their first employee. And yeah, like, you know, we kind of lived through the startup growth. When you think about, like, how startups have to do, like, go through some crazy stuff, or like all-nighters and stuff like that, like, we did that for the 8 years that I was there. So yeah, I lived at his house briefly, like, when I was kind of transitioning between you know, moving back into Kitchener-Waterloo area for work. So yeah, I think, like, you know, only good things to say about him. So his story's kind of interesting. He went to school for, I think it's called management engineering. I actually didn't even know it was a thing. And they look at, like analysis around processes. So he talked about how they had, like, school projects designing, like, queuing systems. And no, I don't mean like message queuing, I mean like queuing people in lines and stuff, right? And doing an analysis around, like, single line versus multi-line versus, like, you know, like, just different strategies for how to get effective queuing systems. And so kind of super interesting from, like, a schooling perspective. But he was a software developer, right? So when I was starting there, he was their first software engineer. And very early on, like, when I was transitioning to do management, he was already transitioning to being a product manager. So this is super early on in his career as well. So if you were to talk to him, his story is probably very much like mine, except I talk about, hey, I went from being a software engineer over to an engineering manager, and he went from being a software engineer to a product manager very early. And he was working in a domain that, like, he didn't know to start with, right? Like digital forensics. None of us went to school for digital forensics. So as a product owner, something that's incredibly important is that, like, you play this role of being a user proxy, like having to understand the pain points of the users, and then being able to figure out how that translates into priorities, especially for the business, because you have to keep in mind that, like, the business has to make money. Otherwise, you'd say, well, what's in the best interest of the user? Let's just make stuff and give it to them for free, right? Things like that. It doesn't work that way. So you need to be able to balance, like, business needs. You have to balance what the customer, like, what's going to solve the customer's problem, which also means not just blindly listening to what customers say. But the other interesting thing that comes up here is that it's the same thing I was saying or have been saying about software developers and communication, but now it's the other way around. You need to be able to have conversations with other software developers as a product owner now, or a product manager, whatever the title happens to be that's focused on product ownership. You now have to be able to articulate back to software developers why things are a priority, why they're important. When engineers push back and they say, hey, but we have this tech debt, or hey, we have these challenges, you also need to be able to operate at a level that you can understand them in order for things to go really smoothly, right? Otherwise, friction will develop. So just to give you an example, and I've seen this go many different ways. Say you have an engineering team, and you're kind of putting out the priorities, people are working, things are going pretty good, and then say you're doing sprints or something and you're planning the next set of work, sit down with the team to talk about it, and then one of the engineers goes, well, that's not going to be like, it's not going to work that well. We're going to have to, I think we need to spend time like refactoring this area of code, rewriting parts of it. Like it's not safe for us to go try and build on top of that. And you're sitting there going, well, what the heck do you mean? Like, we have to go deliver this feature. And they're like, look, I get it, but like, that stuff is really brittle there. So it's probably going to take us a whole sprint just to like clean it up so that we can build effectively there. If we think about this scenario, I've seen product owners that are complete pushovers. And basically, I've literally watched, I don't think maliciously, but I've watched engineers basically just walk all over their product owners, and anything they say, hey, we want to rewrite this, hey, we want to spend time on this, the product owner's just like, okay, because they're unable to ask questions back and understand things, and they just get walked all over. So none of the work that they want to prioritize can ever get done. This is really bad from a business perspective, but the programmers seem to love it, right? Because they're going, hey, we get to kind of do whatever we want as long as we just bring it up, they'll schedule it. The complete opposite direction, which is still a communication problem, is when product owners say no to everything. And this one's pretty common, right? You'll hear people tell stories about like, oh, we never get time to address tech debt. The product owner never lets us do whatever. Now, I should be careful because I don't think that all tech debt should be done. Sorry if that's loud. I have to clear the windshield. I don't think that all tech debt should be done. But I do think that there needs to be a conversation around how it's prioritized. So some product owners will just say no, and it's because they don't even take the time to understand what's being asked. And then I would say that, in my opinion, what makes a good product owner is that they are able to have good, clear communication. Having technical understanding is very valuable. I don't think it's an absolute requirement, because if you have engineers that are very good at spending time communicating things or taking time to understand them, the communication goes both ways, right? If you have both sides that are excellent communicators, great. This works really well. If you have one side that's a little bit worse, but another side's compensating for it, this still works really well. But when you have both sides that are like okay, or one of them subpar, it really starts to have a negative effect. So I think that, having a software development background can be extremely valuable for a product owner. And I would recommend, and this is just my personal opinion, obviously this person's welcome to do whatever they'd like, but I highly recommend, if you still maintain an interest in programming and developing things, like, don't necessarily give that up. And I want to go back to my story from my good friend. He still programs to this day. There were times, so he did a lot of the prototyping with us. If you've heard my other stories, I talked about how we rapidly prototyped a mobile digital forensics product. I gotta move over. People not letting me in. We make room. We prototyped a mobile digital forensics acquisition product, and the story that I told is like we had the first version of the prototype like as we were taking off in an airplane. Sounds super cool. But we were able to like acquire phone data, and we were literally taking off in an airplane on a business trip, and we got it working, and we were like, holy crap, like this is so cool. But like he had already been a product manager for a couple of years at that point, right? And so he was still developing software. And I think personally, not only is he like a great product manager just from having like a good business understanding, empathizing with customers, like understanding their domain, but I think what really helps him excel is that it's no bullshit with the engineers, right? One sec, I'm trying to turn right here and I can't see how many lanes there are. Come on. It's a stupid turn. Anyway, yeah, he, like if we needed to talk about tech debt, for example, we couldn't just say, hey, we want to go program whatever, we don't want to deliver features. He would say like, bullshit, like, what do you mean? Right? Like, you need to be able to explain things. And conversely, if we made a good point and we were like, hey, like, this is why, he would be able to rationalize that and have conversations about like what needs to happen, right? What compromises, like, do we have to do all of it? Can we do some of it? Like, because he can understand what we're trying to discuss. So I think personally, if you're interested in this kind of role transition, if you are able to maintain some amount of technical understanding in the actual programming part, I think that can work really, really well. So I would advise that if that's of interest to you. What else though? I don't know. Like, I think this is an interesting opportunity if someone finds that they're interested in this stuff. I know that I kind of hinted at this earlier, but this idea of like, well, then I'm not going to be programming anymore. Like, is that okay? For this person, they might not care. They might say, yeah, like programming, it's fine, whatever, but like, I'd be totally cool if I never had to do it again. I know a different role, right? For myself as an engineering manager, that took me almost 8 years to figure out. That entire time I was at that digital forensics company, and up until the very end, I was kind of battling with like could I ever take my hands out of the code? Like, I don't know. And by the end, I realized I was having more impact by not coding. But it took me that long to go figure it out. And now at Microsoft, I don't code at all, but I code like every day outside of work. So I never had to give up programming. And that's something else that I kind of wanted to mention here is like, it might look different in your day job now. And I think as long as you feel alignment with that, like if those are interesting things for you, then that's great. But if you're kind of nervous, like, oh, but what happens to the programming part? You can still do this kind of stuff as a hobby or a side business or something, right? But you might find that you don't have time for that if you're trying to do your job effectively at work. So it's a heads up. It's not, it's not the end of the line for your programming journey. It just is going to look different. Trying to think if there's anything else it's like pro tip or like advice or something, but I think that transition is, it could be challenging in the sense like if you've never done some of the things before, it might be like a pretty big learning curve. And what I mean by that is going from being a programmer to like, a lot of the time kind of being told what the priorities are, to now like you're saying what they are. It's not a matter of like, hopefully it's not supposed to feel like a power trip, like I get to tell people what to do. It's not that. It's like I have to represent the customer is how I see it. And that's a challenging role. It's a very challenging role. So it takes time to understand like how to channel and represent the customer effectively. So for example, if you never have customer meetings, right? Like you have to think about like what mechanisms do I have to properly channel the customer? If you're not doing calls with them, if you're not doing customer meetings, like how are you getting that feedback? How are you learning about what customers actually want without just guessing? Without just like saying, this seems like cool tech, we should go build it. right? So these are different skill sets and different sort of activities that you have to lean into. And I'm not saying it's impossible, obviously. It's just, it's one of those things that, like, you need to spend the time figuring that out if you've never done it. So based on what this person said, I'm not sure if there are other product owners at the company or if this is sort of the first kind of one. I might recommend trying to do some networking around this, just to get some advice. One of the things I did was, like, I just started trying to learn in public, right? This is how Dev Leader, my main YouTube channel, came to be when it was just a blog 10 years ago. It's longer than that now, like in 2013. I said, I have to go learn this stuff because I don't know how to be a manager. I have to take it seriously. You know, it's going to take me time, but I'm just going to start writing about the stuff that I'm learning. And that's, I think, another totally viable option is just, like, you know, being vulnerable, trying to learn in public, not trying to masquerade as, like, an expert, but, like, you know, posting on social media, writing blog articles, whatever's comfortable. And I'm not trying to make more work for you, but this is a way where you can go read about things, watch videos on things, and then try to, like, internalize them. And I think something that can really help is when you write about it, because now you're taking some information that you've gathered, you're digesting it for yourself. That's one part. And the second part is that now you have to communicate what you think you've learned to other people. So you're processing it multiple times and trying to have a better understanding. At the end of the day, you still have to put those things into action. So it's not like a shortcut for being an expert, but for at least exposing yourself to different things to try, different methods, different processes. That could be a pretty cool approach, I think. So I might recommend that depending on the person's comfort level. I feel like it worked well for me. It's just that, like, you know, I gave up early on because I started focusing on, like, why is no one reading my blog? Doesn't matter. It wasn't the point, right? Now I rant in a car about software engineering. Look at me now. Just kidding. This isn't so bad. But yeah, I think that's probably about it. I think it's a cool opportunity. I encourage this person, you know, if they're excited about what that role looks like, I think this could be a great chance for them to try applying for that. And it sounds like they are applying internally. I would also just want to remind this person, hey, look, if you don't get it, don't sweat it, okay? They might hire someone else in, because I, like, kind of lived through this kind of thing. They might hire someone else in because they're like, we need to bring on someone that we feel more confident in. And that's not to say that you'll never get a chance or that you're bad or anything like that. So don't take it personally. They might be trying to de-risk things. And I urge you to kind of, like, acknowledge that and accept that. And what that could mean is that now, because if this is a small company that's growing, now you have another product owner inside. Guess what you can do? You can start talking with them. You can start seeing how they work. You can learn from them, right? This, if you don't get it, this could be a huge, can I say a blessing? It sounds like a weird thing to say. An opportunity could be a really cool opportunity for you to learn from someone else. And that way, when the next one's open, guess what? You have someone, if you've been working closely with them, and you could say, like, hey, like, could you maybe refer me to, like, this internal position, given that I've been kind of working alongside you, trying to learn from you, trying to learn the ropes, so to speak. I think it could be really cool. So, yeah, I'm excited for this person. I hope that if they watch this video, if they go for it, they can write back and we can see what their journey's like over time. That'd be awesome. But I think that's it for today. I will sign off here. I'm going to go back to sleep and rest my throat because, well, you can hear me, right? So take care. Tomorrow's an office day. That means at least 2 videos, as long as I don't mess them up. So take care. I'll see you next time.